I do remember one of you telling me that you thought that your teacher was really beautiful. And you were at nursery, you were 3.
Why don't you just go ahead, tuck in and tell it to the entire world as well?
I didn't think it would matter that much, but I do remember you overhearing me telling the teacher
Next
that
3 years of my life were hell.
You told the teacher?
Yeah.
Which
You were 3. Hello and welcome to Seriously with Sarah Beanie. Let's face it, having open and honest conversations with your family isn't always easy, but on this podcast, that's exactly what we're going to do. This week on Seriously, we're turning woke, learning how trauma is being transformed into clickbait, and we take a listener question about pouting, preening and prancing.
This sounds like a good episode.
It's going to be amazing, this one.
I want to go straight in with the wokeness.
When it comes to pouting, you and Billy would be able to talk for about 3 days on that.
But we're going to start with woke.
Let's do
So
it.
go woke. No, do you know that it's in the Oxford Dictionary and the Cambridge Dictionary, and so it's gone in there, which I always think's kind of exciting when you get cool words in the dictionary.
The Riz is in the Oxford Dictionary, and that was they put in new words every year.
I know that's weird.
It's not that. Why
Has
is that?
woke not been in the Oxford Dictionary for ages?
Yeah, it has for like 6 years.
Sorry, the important point here is you think woke is a cool word. Now, woke is something I would say is perceived to be a negative thing, whereas I think when it first came about, it was kind of a positive thing. So you were awake to injustice and aware of injustice. I think it was sort of primarily a racial thing, wasn't it? 70s, 80s in Black America.
It says in the Cambridge Dictionary, it means aware, especially of social problems such as racism and inequality. And in the Oxford English Dictionary, it originally meant well-informed or up-to-date. But now it means something different, which is chiefly alert to racial or social discrimination and injustice, and frequently used in a derogatory way to criticise progressive views. Would it be fair to say that the term woke is now used to describe people who you find annoying, whereas it used to be a bit of a compliment?
I would say it
Has it been
used to be...
a compliment in my lifetime?
Has it?
Has it? Genuinely? I don't know.
I've had people use it as a compliment.
Have you?
When I'm like, obviously you're really, really woke, so that's why, and then would address someone else. So it kind of is like a...
Oh, like saying, oh, you're kind of quite liberal, so don't worry about it.
Yeah.
But these people are not.
Yeah.
So my impression is that it used to be a word that was used where I would
Probably
have
like
used
liberal. Yeah.
But I think it's often used as to describe people who you think
are annoying.
are more liberal than you personally think they should be.
Yeah, actually,
Yeah.
I think also part of it's people who are annoying as well, like people online.
I haven't heard it being used in a positive way for 5 years, I don't think.
So I think it's a real shame what's happened to the word woke and how people perceive it now, because it used to mean someone that's, really liberal, really open to change, which obviously there needs
And
to be.
injustices.
Yeah, and injustices. And it's now become there's loads of people online that are really smug about their wokeness. So you've got like, I don't know, if you put a baby in a trolley, comments will be filled with people going, actually, I think you should know that you're not actually allowed to put, it will actually take 16 years off their life or whatever.
Yeah, some nonsense. Some absolute
Crikey.
nonsense.
You guys are going to croak quite soon.
Yeah.
Or if you feed like a baby a bacon sandwich, it'd be like, actually, I think you'll find that there's 45 food ingredients in the ketchup that is not healthy for your baby.
So it's now a term that's used for what I used to call jobsworths. Like just boring jobsworths who just love to have a little complain about things.
Yeah.
I kind of think it depends who's saying it, because if you're having a really nice chat and somebody was going, yeah, but you're quite woke about that sort of thing, you kind of go, yeah, aren't I? And you pat yourself on the back. But you know that there are a whole load of other people that would be pointing, going, oh, you're so woke. Meaning, I think broadly, people tend to think of wokeness as idiocy, which is slightly alarming, because I think as a general rule, people who are more aware of injustice are generally likely to be a bit cleverer than the people who are unaware of injustice.
Yes.
I think there's a lot of people that are opinionated and not educated on the subjects of.
Oh, that's a good saying.
Do you know the problem with wokeness? The wokeness became a negative thing with cancel culture. And as soon as the people who are awake and aware started cancelling stuff, cancelling history because they didn't like it, that's when wokeness suddenly became a negative thing.
So I was thinking it became negative when it shut down conversation. You're not allowed to speak. That's when it became, because it used to be about talking. I think now for some people, it's about shutting people up. That's when it became
You
not
need
very
everyone
good.
to be able to share their opinions, to be able to collate a fair and just opinion on the world, I think.
Would you describe yourselves as woke?
Probably not. No,
I would.
Yeah.
I describe myself as woke.
Would it be a compliment to yourself?
Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty matter-of-fact answer to that, wasn't it?
I probably wouldn't describe myself as woke. The thing is, right, is that it can say one thing in the Oxford Dictionary, but that doesn't necessarily mean what it actually means nowadays. And actually, I think the term woke is used to be is used to kind of label and kind of shout about stuff without necessarily totally understanding what you're talking about, and I think that's what people label it as. I try not to express an opinion unless I can back myself up with evidence as to why I have that opinion.
There would hardly be any conversation in the world if we all kind of knew what we were talking about, though.
My point is it's got negative connotations, and I probably wouldn't want to label myself as something like that, because I think I wouldn't want to categorize myself among all of the people that have been considered woke.
Do you think that wokeness is now bigoted?
Yeah, what do you mean?
Do you think there's a perception that wokeness is kind of like, if you were to call somebody woke, it's because they're bigoted. It's because they'll shut you down, because they won't listen to any opinion other than yours. The truth is that in most things there is a balance of opinion, and you're either, if you're normal, you're swinging to the left or you're swinging to the right.
Yeah.
You're not normally polarized. And I think that wokeness is as a term now means that you are polarized and in transient, so you will never have your opinion changed. You won't have the conversation. You'll shut down other people for having their conversation. And that's where it's become something very unattractive. I think wokeness and the term wokeness is just sort of collateral damage for living in a society where we're always trying to pull apart and we're not trying to kind of join each other along. We live in a country, we should kind of treat ourselves as one big family, although, crikey, you're all going to send in saying that I'm too woke now. But I think that wokeness has become part of that because we want to polarize everything. Everybody's at it. Politicians are trying to go, well, you're my sort of person, you're not my sort of person. Therefore, what I'm going to try and do is drive a wedge between you. I'm a bit worried that we're trying to polarize our society, and it's coming from the top to the bottom, from the top down. We're not trying to encourage everybody to work together. And you can see it in the House of Commons with people just arguing about nothing, really, and just going, oh no, because you're in the wrong party, that's wrong. We've got to start working together. I'd much rather see cooperative coalition governments. Do you know what? They might get a little bit less done, but I imagine what they do get done would be a little bit more useful.
Yes. Maybe the biggest problem with the word woke is the fact that it's used in lots of different ways by lots of different people. And it might be a positive thing. It might be a negative thing.
It's not very
thrown
well
as an
defined.
insult. No, it's not.
I think where the problem really comes. It's sort of,
It's an insult or a compliment.
It depends who you are when you're being called it. It depends who you are when you're
saying it.
Saying someone is woke. So it has all of these different meanings, and it can mean a very positive thing. I think it can mean a very negative thing.
I think we have established, haven't we, that that it is a word that can be used, but I think we're all nervous of using it, and we're all nervous of what we have to say, and we are nervous of being called out for something that we misinterpret, don't mean, get wrong. You know, that is a new era, because I don't think people were really, really nervous about slipping up.
I don't think you should cancel people for getting things wrong, because I don't think there's a single person on this earth that hasn't got something wrong, which is so annoying that people don't want to see people grow. And I get cancelling if someone's hateful or if someone's genuinely got too much wrong, but someone's saying the wrong thing or having a wrong opinion, let them try and help them grow as a person instead of shutting them off from access to a way that they could grow as a person.
Yeah, because otherwise they carry on thinking the thing that you would rather they didn't think. You're much better off changing their mind. If you shut them up, they still think it. So I think in conclusion, the word woke is probably used differently by different people to describe different people, and what it means sort of varies depending on who's using it and who's it's being used to describe. But I think we probably always have changed one generation to the next. The most important thing, though, for a younger generation with wokeness or an older generation is that things have to keep moving forwards, and you don't change and you don't improve as a society if you don't keep the door open. So shutting conversation down doesn't solve anything. Talking about things and discussing them does.
After the break, we're going to be talking about trauma dumping. What do you guys think a trauma dump is?
Well, it sounds, I mean, I imagine it's when you have a trauma and then you tell a friend all about it. Is it? Or is it getting rid of your trauma by just dumping it, leaving it behind, moving on?
Oh my God, sorry, I had a completely different thought. I thought it was sort of like a post-kebab morning after affair.
Oh my God.
Why did my brain automatically go there?
Oh, what, like a
everyone.
trauma dump.
As in
Yeah.
using the lavatory?
Yeah.
Oh, Lord.
Basically, it's been around for years in therapy and mental health circles.
Then it's
used to
presumably not
describe-
after a kebab, is it?
It's never after a kebab. It's used to describe someone who suddenly offloads intense emotional experiences.
It's like going to the pub with your mates, and after a couple too many, when they start crying, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh God, not again. Come on, you do this all the time. But that would be considered potentially a trauma dump. But it's not as bad when they're only crying about like really pathetic stuff.
I think you have to be very careful of people's trauma dump, because very often I think they might not completely be true. They're sort of based in a kernel of truth, but you know, the exaggeration of maybe the couple of pints has turned it into a trauma when it was actually quite a small thing. And
I do that.
It's so exaggerated, it actually bears no relation to reality at all.
I remember one of my most traumatic moments. I remember I told mum something in proper secrecy. I remember, and then she was like with all her friends, and she told everyone just for a cheap laugh.
How traumatic was it?
I am so sorry.
Could you imagine, as a 6-year-old, that's the most traumatic thing you go through, and you have to sit there, and mum's just throwing it in just for a cheap laugh with her friends.
I
just
am
for
so bad.
You cheap mum and cheap friends and
cheap
just
friends and
whole-
cheap laugh. And
You've
was
done
my
that to me as well.
biggest
Oh
secret.
my goodness.
Me and
I'm
Billy used to sit on the stairs and just listen to you. Hide, sit on the stairs and just hide. And listen to you have dinner parties and just go, oh, and then Charlie told me this. It's so funny, right?
Oh my God.
It's so funny, right?
Was it? I do remember one of you telling
Just to
me.
make you feel special for a little moment. just to make you get a cheap laugh and make you feel special.
It's
You
taken.
betrayed me.
I'm so sorry.
It's taken on a new form, though, trauma dumping. But thanks for yours.
I just want to say, wait, I just have to respond and say, I am so sorry. That is really awful.
Oh
I
my
do
God,
remember.
get over it. It's real life, you two. Stop being so pathetic.
I do remember one of you telling me that you thought that your teacher was really beautiful, and
Hold on.
you were at nursery. You were 3.
Why don't you just go ahead, tuck in, and tell it to the entire world as well?
I didn't think it would matter that much, but I do remember you overhearing me telling the teacher
Next
that
3 years
you
of my
thought-
life were hell.
You told the teacher.
Yeah.
Which teacher?
You were 3.
I fancied her when I was at nursery. Can I just bear in mind that although Mum's saying this, it didn't matter, like you were still wearing nappies, it did matter because of
I
course,
know it did, and I'm so sorry.
I thought I had a chance and probably still did until she told me.
I genuinely thought it would be more flattering to tell her.
She was very beautiful and she was very nice. And she was also very friendly when we were doing our colouring ins. And she was very lenient when I went outside the lines. And let me just say this.
Do you know the really terrible...
Telling her that betrayed our trust and meant that she probably never looked at me the same.
I feel so guilty.
Jesus, we've slipped into trauma dumping quite quickly. And
Yeah, so trauma dumping is now taking on a different meaning, and it's an online thing.
Oh.
Where people set up their cameras and then they take a video and they talk about a really terrible experience that they've experienced. So it could be something with their family, like a massive breakup, something like that. And they just stop it and then post it.
Blimey. What, so
yeah.
everybody else has to have their trauma too?
Yeah, and this kind of like radical emotional outbursts, they've become quite normal. Like every 5 scrolls on TikTok, you'll find one.
do these people have no pride? What's wrong? Why would you do that?
So it gets loads of views and then they get money from the views.
And then they get millions of pounds. They have no
Oh,
pride, do they?
those prideless
Yeah, they're just...
influencers.
It's all about clickbait. How can you pull someone in with something more extreme? And the more we read and see that's extreme, it needs to be even more extreme.
It's a bit like drugs, isn't it?
Yeah, you have to do more and more and more and more.
You want the next best thing, then the next best thing.
But so in some ways, I
We're
think
never satisfied.
Never satisfied.
Well, that is the key. That is how they make money. Social media sites need to not satiate you, because if you're satisfied, then you'll go and do something else. You can never complete social media.
Yeah. Some people are just kind of talking about a breakup, which obviously can be pretty visceral. But some people are talking about genuine abuse and
they dump it online
Yeah.
for people.
I guess it does raise awareness. So that's
They
always a good
also
thing.
get, the truth is they also get lots of people coming up in the comments going, I'm so sorry, blah, blah, blah. And then you get people who
get
have had
support.
similar support and similar experiences. Whereas if you've just had something like that happened on your own, then of course it's going to be, more difficult to kind of keep that in.
I was kind of thinking about it because I was a bit, well, why on earth would you want to do that? And then I suddenly thought, we write songs about our trauma and then we put them out there.
You do.
People listen to
And
them.
we hope
and
as
actually
many
we-
people listen to it as possible.
Yeah, and we kind of hope it's engaging and honest. And if you're not being honest about it, it's never quite as relatable.
In fact, you lot trauma dump all the time.
We have to make it rhyme though.
A rhyming trauma dump.
Yes.
Which makes
That's the difference, because you can't just go on a spiel and trauma dump. I would have to go, my wife's brother married my dad's cat. And what on earth was that?
Fortunately, I think your song lyrics are a bit better than that. The good things is that you can meet other people who have had that experience and feel they mustn't talk about it or can't talk about it, and they're the only person in the world who's gone through this horrific
Similarly
experience.
to your cancer documentary.
Yeah.
Where you would the aim of it was to raise awareness for people that were going to go through a
The
similar.
aim of it-
Arguably,
the
that
aim of
could-
it was a 45-minute trauma dump from mum.
Arguably, there is some argument to say that was a trauma dump.
One of the reasons I made that documentary is it was a trauma dump for me, but also I thought it would help other people who feel that they were isolated and that they're on their own to be able to see that other people go through it?
I remember when you were out the other side of cancer and you had released a documentary and all you wanted was to never think about that part of your life ever again. And admittedly, it was amazing that you did. You still are talking about it because it's raising so much awareness. But I think that there is a danger of it starting to become your image. But I think for some people, you are defined.
I'd agree. And I absolutely, that's why I could say after my trauma dump of the documentary,
Yeah.
I sort of did it partly because I didn't think, I knew the story would get out. So I thought, well, if it's going to go out anyway, I might as well tell it my way.
Yeah.
But yes, and I guess other people don't, their lives move on. So a year in my life is a whole year. But if they haven't thought about me at all for the last 2 years, they still think I'm in the middle of treatment because they haven't thought about it. So you are right. And I meet people now and they say, how are you doing? And I say, fine. Why would I not be? And they go, well, how are you doing from, and I'm like, no, sorry, what?
Yeah.
And for me, you're right. It is
You
something
don't
that
want to
happened.
think about it.
People always ask me how you're doing. And my response is stock and heartfelt, which is always, she's doing really well. Thank you very much. Thank you for asking.
Oh, it's very kind of them to ask.
Of course, people are going to be worried about that sort of thing. I think that your cancer documentary was your
Dad's
defining.
saying that. I think that he tends to do a bit of a trauma dump himself. He likes to go.
I don't make Mum's cancer journey all about me.
She's doing okay, but she seems to be complaining about me a lot at the moment. That kind of thing.
Well, that's probably got more to do with me.
I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that human to human contact is always better than whatever form of digital anything is always worse. You will always feel better if you speak to someone face to face, whether it's your friend or your relative or your therapist. I mean, trauma dumping doesn't sound too bad if you're trying to build a community or find like-minded people to share your experience with or help them. But it probably is quite bad if you're trying to make stories sound sensational just to get more clicks. After the break, we'll take a listener question. So this is the part of the show where we take a question from our listeners and viewers. And this week's question is, hi, Sarah. As someone in my 50s, I've been curious and honestly a bit baffled by the trend of young women on TikTok perpetually lip syncing, pouting, and showing off their bodies to the camera. When I was younger, that kind of thing would have been seen as vain or self-obsessed. I'd love to hear the boys' take on this. What do you think drives this trend? Is it about confidence, creativity, peer pressure, or something else? Are the boys attracted by this performative behaviour or turned off by it, as they would have been in our day? Thank you, Claire.
Essentially, the reason why lip syncing is a big thing is because if you lip sync to a popular song or a current song or a song that's currently other people are doing it to, you get more followers.
So the music, basically, that if you use the music from TikTok on your video, then they know that that's a really popular song.
Yeah, so for example, every artist wants to have a song that goes viral on TikTok. And a song going viral on TikTok means you have more people lip syncing to your video than anyone else.
It's interesting, though, the lip syncing thing to me, because actually it's an excuse for making yourself look really pretty online, isn't it? Or really good looking online. And it kind of gives you something to do. So it's very easy to do. There's no harm in it, really. I don't think. It's pretty good for the artist. It's a bit of music out there. And if you look nice on it, I mean, it's pretty shallow, but it's
like,
also,
it's
I kind of think it's not. It's
quite
doing
fun,
anyone any
though.
harm.
I post shallow stuff on our Instagram and TikTok when I think we look cool or we look handsome.
Dad, you need to do some lip sync. I'm going to do a lip syncing of your next song. That's what I'm going to do. Yeah. So fundamentally, Claire, I think the answer to your question is that it's part of the TikTok algorithm that if you use sound from TikTok, not record it onto your video separately, but you have to use it from TikTok, And if you do some kind of video to it, which could be miming, singing the song or doing something else, then your video is going to get way more listens.
Way more views.
Putting a
watches.
video out where you think you look really good looking and then have people commenting and people liking it going, you look really good looking, it's obvious you're going to want to do that again because
Yeah.
that obviously is
Yeah.
going to be a massive compliment.
The more you get into it and the more you watch it, actually the more normal it is. It is definitely, from someone my age when I was brought up, it's really weird. And when I first saw it, I did think it was really weird. But actually, the more you watch it, and loads of people lip sync your songs, and
Yeah.
that's really
And thank
cool.
you to everyone who has lip synced our songs. If anyone,
Yeah, they are quite
and keep doing
gorgeous.
it. Keep doing it more.
and then, there was the other thing that we
And
just...
Claire, if you ever wanted to actually join them and start lip syncing yourself on TikTok, we're called The Entitled Sons, and you just
We'll definitely post it on our
We'll
story,
go
Claire.
and do it to Still Smiling. It would be very helpful.
The other point that Claire makes is showing off your body. Is that okay? Is that empowerment, or is like it would have been considered a bit vain when I was young? But that's because there weren't any cameras around, so you didn't have lots of photographs.
Yeah, there aren't cameras.
I kind of think a little bit though that the bikini was invented before I was born.
Yeah, that is
Do you know
true.
what I mean?
That was about
And
showing off your
everyone
body.
was up in arms about the bikini when it came in, and everyone started wearing it. It became a fashion statement.
The point is it's not actually necessarily about, people say it's about empowerment and it's about all of this. The truth is sometimes it's not, okay? Because if you're in a bikini, if you're going to be put in a bikini, sometimes you might feel self-conscious, you might feel this. People want to show off when they look good, is the truth. No one wants to show off.
But that can be very empowering though. As
Yeah,
well.
of course it can.
we have
But
this-
but it's no different. I think the TikTok thing is no different to like the models that you had in the 90s, the whole, this catwalk supermodels who were like, uber thin and...
But it's just a different medium, really, isn't
Yeah.
it? It's not. I mean, when I look at it now, I kind of think it's a different way of now that you can do it. You couldn't do it before because there weren't any. You just had an old camera, so it would have been really complicated, and it wasn't immediate, and it was really difficult to edit. And so the truth is, the tools weren't around to do this, and I think I would have done this when I was young if it was around.
Yeah,
idea
and
of-
all of your friends would have been doing it as well, yeah. So.
Yeah.
The idea of vanity has sort of gone out the window
That is
That's a really good
interesting
point,
and a
actually.
good point.
because everyone checks their hair, makes sure they look how they want to look. But I don't think anyone goes, "Oh my God, you're so vain" anymore. As a result of all of this, though, there is a certain amount of body positivity that's coming from it. So you have people in wheelchairs doing thirst traps. You have plus size models doing thirst traps. You've got people that 15 years ago could have been really underrepresented. And there are now people that are kind of showing it off. And I think that's a good thing.
Confidence. They've got confidence.
And
in
they're
it.
giving other people confidence.
Yeah, I think that's really a really good point. And actually, so that there isn't a few people telling everyone what acceptable to look like is. And actually, people can go, no, why should you make the rules as to this is acceptable? If you don't look like this, you must hide away and be really ashamed. Actually, no one's writing the rules about what's acceptable, each to their own.
And everyone has a phone as well. So obviously back in the 90s, before phones came a thing, you need a camera and a newspaper and a model to put up something that you would see on page 3, for example. And so that would be something. But now everyone has a camera, everyone has a phone, and everyone has TikTok. So it's completely free. You can just upload it yourself. So you don't have to be...
So in a way,
I
it's
thi-
giving
it's-
power to the people,
Yeah, giving power to the people.
see what they want and do
Exactly,
what they want, and taking their power out of a few, people who own newspapers' hands and giving it to. It's a fundamentally pretty democratic in a way.
Yeah.
If you didn't look at the algorithm that manipulates it, but that it's more democratic than it used to be.
Yeah.
But yes, it is vain. It is very vain. And I've had to pinch myself a few times going, "Oh, let me just quickly rotate there because that catches the light on my face there. And I'm going to hold it there." That is what people do. It's not ideal. Being that self-obsessed, which I think Gen Z really is. I think that it would be good for everyone to look a bit more outwards than inwards. But Claire, to answer your question, you asked whether people find those kind of videos attractive. Yes, a lot of people do find them attractive, which is why they get boosted on the algorithm so much and go so viral. And yes, it definitely is a bit vain, especially when I see Billy doing it. He's being very vain about it. But I think people are more accepting of people being vain nowadays and don't care as much.
And it's just a bit of fun as well, I think, inevitably at the end of the day. I mean, look, all of our generation use TikTok, so it's it's quite a fun thing to do occasionally if you're with your mates, just kind of chuck it up. And I know that seems really weird to maybe people of your generation, but I'm sure there were things that you guys did in your generation that seemed weird to your parents' generation. And I think that life will go on like that forever.
And we're looking forward to seeing your lip sync of our song "Still Smiling." That's out now. We'll repost it, I promise, if you do actually lip sync.
That is going to be good. We'll put it on the Seriously Podcast Instagram as well. So yeah, that's the end of this week's episode. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining me again, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week.
See you next week.
See you next week. Bye. Bye.
If you'd like to submit a topic for us to discuss, please email us. The address is mail@seriouslywithsarahbeanie.co.uk. Seriously was created by me, your host, Sarah Beanie, and our producer, Jonathan Profaska. The show is recorded and edited by Jonathan Profaska and Christian Kay.